It's a beautiful winter's evening. Well, it's about 5, 6 o'clock here in Llano, California, and the sun is setting, and we may not have a lot of light, but my name is Paul Picerni. A lot of you don't recognize me or the name, but 60 years ago, I started in the motion picture industry and made 65 motion pictures and maybe 400 or 500 television shows. Most people remember me from the Untouchables television series with Robert Stack. This is a picture of us from the Untouchables. You got that? This is the way I looked 60 years ago, and I think your grandfather and your grandmother will remember me as that handsome young man that turned into this 87-year-old geezer that I am. Anyhow, I met a young man named John Gloske about 10 years ago, maybe more. He was a big fan of mine, and we became very close friends. And he's a connoisseur of motion pictures, and he's a brilliant guy when it comes to movies and television. He knows everything about it. If I want to say, who did I do that show with, and he'll tell me the whole cast. Anyhow, John started me. I used to tell a lot of good stories. I emceed a lot of shows, and I had some good stories. Like, for example, when I was doing the Untouchables, the Italians were up in arms about the use of Italian names for the gangsters on the Untouchable series. And every week we killed 3 or 4 Italians in the show, and the Italians were up in arms. And one day we got a phone call on the set. It was from a woman. And our first assistant director, Bob Daly, picked up the phone, and the woman said, she says, "This is the Untouchable company?" And Bob Daly says, "Yes, it is, ma'am." She says, "I got a little complaint to make. I'm the secretary of the Italian-American Federation. All the time on your show, The Untouchable, you show Italian people are bad people. Shoot, to fight, to kill. Italian people, we not like that. We like to eat, we like to sing, we like to dance. We don't like violence. If you don't stop showing the Italian people are bad, the people on your show, somebody going to throw a bomb in your studio." Anyhow, I told stories like that, and John said to me, he said, "Why don't you write a book?" He said, "You've worked with so many great stars like John Wayne, Errol Flynn, Telly Savalas, what's the redhead's name? I Love Lucy. What's her name?
Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball, of course. That's what happens when you get old, you forget things. Lucille Ball ended up as my boss as the Untouchables because it was produced by Desilu. Anyhow, this is the cover of my book. It's called Steps to Stardom, and there are a lot of great chapters in here. There's a chapter about John Wayne. There's a chapter about Errol Flynn, a chapter about Burt Lancaster, Audie Murphy, who I did To Hell and Back with, Paul Newman. Anyhow, hundreds and hundreds of stars that I work with, and there's some interesting stories, like the one about Mrs. Ponticello. And I think you'd enjoy this book. And I think right now it's time to introduce the man who helped me start this book. Incidentally, Tom Weaver helped me write it, but John Gloske is the guy who helped me start it. And John, I want to introduce to you now because he also wrote a book. So I'm going to cut for 1 second and then bring in John. Okay, I told you I was going to introduce you to the man who got me started to write my book, Steps to Stardom. Well, he also wrote a book, and this is his book. It's called The Tough Kid. It's about Frankie Darro, and it's a wonderful book. Read this book, and you'll learn all about the early history of Hollywood. And now it's time to meet my good friend, John Gloske.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you.
You take over.
You know, actually, I would not have written this book if it wasn't for this guy, because the final chapter was actually written first. I wrote the chapter, gave it to Paul. I said, "Paul, read this. If you think it's worthwhile, I'm going to write a book." And the one thing you can always count on Paul for is to give you an honest opinion. He liked it, so I kept writing. It wouldn't have been written if it wasn't for him.
Anyhow, can you get both of us now? We're good friends. He's a lot younger than I am and a lot better looking. But we have 2 great books, and we'd like you to buy them. Mine is $25 for the soft cover. And John, how much is yours?
$21.95. They're both available on Amazon, or you can order at the scroll that you see at the bottom of the screen. but both are books about Hollywood that we think you'll enjoy.
Yeah, you can write to us direct. If you write to us direct, we'll autograph these books for you. Our address is, mine is Paul Picerni, Box 88, P.O. Box 88, Llano, L-L-A-N-O, California, 93544. And if you write to John at this address,
at 18159 Parthenia, Parthenia Street, Northridge, California, 91325, 2195, and postage is $2.95. The book will be yours.
and autograph.
And autograph.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the books.
Thank you so much.